Hello, fellow denizens of YouTube and hopeful future subscribers, and welcome to the very first episode of Team Puddle's Wynaut. I'm your host, Toby.
And I'm Danny, the guy who's going to prove decisively why you're absolutely wrong and why you sound entirely too needy during the opening sequence.
Alright. Anyway, our topic for the day is actually going to be on Pokemon battles, and whether or not they are animal abuse.
They most certainly are. There's not a single thing about them that isn't animal abuse. If you take Pokemon battles and input actual, real, cute, adorable animals like puppies, then you're going to be shockingly disturbed by anything you see.
Now, hold up, dude. I mean, that doesn't exactly follow. I mean, Pokemon battles don't constitute animal abuse. It's just like a standard sport. I mean, sure, there are some similarities to like dogfighting and cockfighting, but it's nowhere near the same degree.
The animals bite, burn, paralyze, poison. Fuck. You remember that? There was one episode in the anime, where they decided the twist of the battle would be hooking people up to electrodes, and then they feel the pain that their Pokemon feel during that battle.
Well, to be
and
fair,
then they're not too. And to quote James on this one, you wouldn't feel too anxious about battling then, would you? And I did not actually quote him there, but that's pretty much what he said.
Well, to be fair, I mean, Battle of the Badge comes from the anime, which we can't really bring outside sources into this. And besides, it's been shown just through common interactions and through Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and, hell, even things like Pokemon Snap, that Pokemon use their abilities in the wild, and they do battle with them. They battle, that's how they grow, that's how they level up, that's how they evolve. I mean, if you take away battling, then Pokemon really don't have many ways of growing stronger and growing to their potential, doing what they're supposed to do naturally.
Yeah, but they fight for food or for specific reasons. We abduct them, trap them in balls, make them into our slaves, and then force them to fight each other so we can make a quick buck off them.
Well, what about the entirety of the Pokemon trainer bond? That's not unlike the
Stockholm Syndrome.
animal-human bond.
That's not unlike Stockholm Syndrome.
But if you have a pet, and your pet loves you and cuddles with you, that's not Stockholm Syndrome. That's the animal-human bond at its very base form.
If that's all we did with them, then that'd be great. But now we raise them and force them to fight like pit bulls. Pit bulls that you cuddle up with and snuggle with, and then force them to go out and bite and blood sport against the enemy.
Well, it's not so much a force. I mean, they're doing it willingly. Trainers aren't smacking their Pokemon around. They're willingly taking commands.
You have to beat the shit out of them and then force them into a tiny little ball until they're willing to obey you, because they don't want to be shoved back into that little ball or have you beat the shit out of them again.
Well, what if you've raised up a Pokemon from an egg? I mean,
then that's all it knows. You've brainwashed it from birth, like Splinter did to the turtles.
Okay.
That's all it knows. You've raised them to be your little fighting force.
But okay. I guess I know I said we wouldn't be bringing outside sources into this, but in the manga, we're showing kind of a parallel where Red and Giovanni are fighting, and Giovanni and Red begin fighting as well. How is that any better than a Pokemon battle?
Because they're not being forced to do. They actually want to do the battle for something other than appeasing some almighty trainer who came down and decided to tame them. Since we're allowed to bring outside sources in now, you remember Pokemon the movie Forever? I just saw it the other day. Yeah, the evil guy decided to catch Celebi inside a Pokeball, and then force it to fight against all its former friends. Like if I were to go out and catch, say, a Pidgey now, train it up to a Pidgeotto, then stomp through the area where I got it before just because I want to grind and get back to the other city. And people actually do that in the games just because, why not? We don't give a shit. We don't give a shit about them, their friends. They can go there, faint all their friends, and leave their corpses out for to be preyed upon by the Farfetch'd or whatever. I didn't come up with a good predatory bird Pokemon, but
Like a
still.
Fearow?
Yeah, like a Fearow.
Well, but again, I mean, who says the Pokemon are fighting to appease their trainer so much as grow stronger? I mean, as we've seen, Pokemon do fight in the wild, and who's to say that, I mean, that humans and Pokemon aren't one and the same? It was very welly put in the video by Game Theorist and the J-Wits, where they came up to the conclusion that humans are Pokemon, given the in-game lore. I mean, given that, people fighting people constitutes as a Pokemon battle, which someone as violence-starved as you would not be able to survive without.
Alright, very simple. Remember the days of slavery? What if white slave owners decided to raise and train their slaves to fight each other to the death, or just to passing out, where they've already been burned and all the other horrible things we do to Pokemon on a daily basis. That right there is horrible. It doesn't matter if they're both human, because one is treating the other like it's not the same. It's a pet. It's a possession. Some trainers don't even treat their Pokemon like their friends, i.e., any generic bad guy in the anime ever.
Well, very true, but again, there's also owners who don't treat their pets like pets and treat them as though they're burdens and just something that needs to be reminded of its place. Again, there's tons of parallels you can draw to the real world, but at the end of the day, if humans really are Pokemon, then as the J-Wits and game theorists stated, it only makes sense that if you're a wild Pokemon who's not nearly as smart as this breed of Pokemon, say human, who's incredibly smart, knows how to strategize, and that is its ability, then it makes sense you'd want to gravitate towards that in order to become stronger yourself. Build a connection with it.
Okay, psychic types. They're perfectly smart enough to survive on their own. Why do they gravitate towards us? They're stronger than us. They're smarter than us.
And they're still not able to strategize.
They can strategize perfectly well. Do you remember that, well, they're all super smart. Just, if you look at the intelligence stats on them, they're all... Oh, I can't remember his name. This keeps annoying me. It's the big metal dude. He used to be really strong in the games. I'm not sure if he still is. Big forearm metal dude. Metagross. Metagross has the intelligence of 5 supercomputers. I'm perfectly sure he's capable of running war games or whatever and strategizing on his own. And Pokemon seem perfectly capable of battling on their own without our help. Unless you're like an EV trainer, in which case you're just cheating the system.
But they still seem to want to be around us.
After we shoved them in a little ball after beating the shit out of them. Okay, going back to what I said before about the anime, if you recall, every single time anyone's ever actually just gone out and caught a Pokeball, they're the caught a Pokemon in a Pokeball, they're the bad guys. Every time Ash or one of the protagonists catches a Pokemon, it has to specifically want them to catch it. It's a huge storyline thing. They grew to love and admire them during the thing. That is not what we do in the games. We go out, find a random Pokemon, beat the shit out of it, then stuff it in a little ball.
But then, as you can see with things like Pokemon Amy and the other systems having a Pokemon walk behind you, they not just grow to love you, because that would constitute the Stockholm Syndrome we brought up before, but some of them start out just with an immediate affection towards you.
Because they've already been domesticated, like our starter Pokemon. Also, if they try and run from us, we'll just call them back into their little ball. It's the most effective slave collar ever. And speaking of which, back in the anime during the movie with Arceus, we go back to Roman days and find out the first Pokeballs were literal slave collars that we just put on Pokemon and used to make them obey if they refuse to. And also, Pokemon refuse to obey you if you're not strong enough. Like if someone trades over a Pokemon to you but you don't have the right badge, it refuses to obey you because you're not strong enough to force it to.
Well, it's
not intimidated of you properly enough.
Doesn't respect you.
It's not intimidated by you enough. There's literally no difference between what I'm saying and what you're saying.
There's no reason for it to be intimidated by you to begin with. When you have a giant fire-breathing dragon, there's no reason it should fear you.
Obviously, the badges are really intimidating to them. That's why you need to have a couple badges in order for it to obey you. Even legendaries fear your might when you have all the badges. Which, to be fair, the wake of corpses you left in your path, and all the other Pokemon you own who won't rise up with them on their side, leads me to believe that, yeah, it's a pretty wise thing for them not to decide to rebel. And the fact that you can call them back into their Pokeball at any time, and if they never obey you, shit, just shove them in your box. You never need to see them again. They'll be locked away for the rest of their days. Not to mention other ones you catch just to fill out your Pokédex. Those ones will be locked in there regardless, just because you gotta catch them all.
Okay, and if you're somebody like me who likes to wipe their box...
Hopefully you're actually freeing them, because otherwise, holy shit, what you just said is terrifying. You're literally wiping them all from existence.
Well, considering it says to release them.
Okay, that's better, because I was picturing like a big delete button, and you just shove them in the in the trash on your PC, like what you have right there. You realize how horrible that would be.
Yes, that would be fucking
terrible. But to be fair, the fact that they're nothing more than code on the computer at that point means it'll be pretty easy for them to get like corrupted or something.
I wouldn't say they're code on the computer. I've just always, if we're going to bring outside sources in again, taken it like the anime where you're just sending them somewhere else.
Oh yeah, like the trade system. Alright, I guess my point's revoked. But imagine if there was just a trash can button. That would be pretty horrible.
That would be fucking terrible, yeah. Well, what do you guys think? Who's right in this scenario? I mean, do Pokemon battles really constitute as animal abuse?
Don't forget you get money at the end. Just when you win. And everyone challenges you to a thing. The entire economy is based around animal abuse and cockfighting.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the entire economy because... Well,
Who else has jobs other than Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny?
Well, we just don't see them. There are plenty of people who own shops. There's plenty of people who have Pokemon as partners in construction. They're actual living employees working beside people.
Still better than what we do, but of course they challenge you to a battle when they come across you too, and willing to shove aside a big portion of their paycheck.
Yeah, but to be fair, the games are an RPG. That kind of thing is to be expected coming from literally any given RPG.
Do you know how many videos I've seen criticizing what Link would do if he was real, and he just sort of silently walks through your house smashing and taking your shit? Oh, RPGs should be overthought. This is the reason we're having this video. You can't dismiss it as just being an RPG when we're already 11 minutes into our video. You've invalidated everything we're trying to do if you accept that.
Okay, very true. RPGs need to be overanalyzed because there's a lot of bullshit in them. But comparing the actual RPG of the games, which I guess is technically superior to, say, something like the anime, you do need to excuse some of the elements. Especially if you're going to go into an ethical debate.
Yeah, to be fair, everyone challenges you to a battle as soon as they see you. And you have to assume they're battling on their weekends too, so their Pokemon can evolve through Bloodsport. And defeating other people's Pokemon. Well, and killing them like we did to Gary's Rattata on the SSM.
Well,
we killed his Pokemon.
Let's go with Blue. Off topic, let's go with Blue.
Blue doesn't have a cheer squad and his own car at 10. We're going with Gary.
We're going with Blue. It's the games. We're going with Blue. Anyway.
He's Gary Oak. His grandfather is Professor Oak, therefore he is Gary Oak. Also, Blue's not really a name. Otherwise, I just call myself Orange and run around naked, covered in orange spray paint.
And to be fair, you do that anyway.
I'm much too modest to cover myself in orange paint and run around naked.
Anyway, from what we've seen, though, I mean, there's fighting gyms. There are actual literal gyms or other areas in which people use to level up their Pokemon. Sure, they don't need to go out and do battling. It just happens to be the most naturally effective way to do it. Again, Pokemon evolve naturally in the wild that way. Otherwise...
By killing and eating other Pokemon. But it's for food, so it's okay.
It's not always for food. We've seen several terrifying Pokedex entries where Pokemon just kill for sport. They kill for fun.
And those are
on their own.
And those are terrifying Pokemon, but it doesn't cover Pikachu, Pichu, and Bidoof. You know, like the adorable things you force to fight each other.
Again, but they have a natural fight instinct. Just like people have a natural fight instinct, because people are Pokemon.
What happens if we didn't make them fight and they had an entirely different evolution thing? If you look at the main starters from Kanto, they all grew up into big, beefy, horrifying fighting monstrosities. What if they leveled up through kindness? Would they have an entirely different form? It's not something you see in the game, so we wouldn't never know. But if they evolved to match their current situation, it would make sense for them to become big, beefy fighting monstrosities when all they do is fight.
Well, but that doesn't explain something like Sunkern that becomes a Sunflora.
I guess it doesn't make sense in all of them, but it'll make an interesting theory. An interesting game theory if you're interested.
You know,
yes, I'm okay
with if Matt Pat happens to see our video and take an idea from it. I would be okay with that.
He can have that one free.
Yeah,
I would thank him. You would get a welcome in our credits.
Yes,
if we do credits.
We're not doing credits for this video.
You sure? I'd like to see my name show up a dozen different times in our 5-minute length credits.
Editor and co-host would be all you have. That is not a dozen.
We need to make up a whole bunch of bullshit titles and just give them out to people so we can see our name dozens of times in the credits.
We're about to cross the 15-minute mark. Well, we've seriously gone off topic here. Either way, let's try our second closing statement because we tried one almost 5 minutes ago and
Fine.
It didn't work. So, what do you guys think? Do Pokemon battles constitute as animal abuse? Or are they a necessary means to have them grow stronger and have them actually grow up in life?
And dominate your opponents. Crush all those who stand before you and all the tiny little Rattata who get in your way.
Are Pokemon our friends and companions? Or are they, as my colleague here has been declaring, just slaves to unruly and unfeeling masterminds. Your decision. Let us know in the comments. Tell us what you think. Please be sure to like and subscribe. We'll have our next video up next week on a similar debate. We'll see you then.